I'm Lyndsey Smith with RealAgriculture. I'm joined by Gordon Bacon, the CEO of Pulse Canada. We are at FarmTech 2014, and if there's an overarching theme to any of the shows that we've been at this month, it is logistics, logistics, logistics. So we spoke just recently about the new 5-year performance review, funding that's come into place, that's going to move forward. But, you know, we've been talking about the immediacy of this problem, but really there's 3 sort of timeframes we should be talking about.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's the immediate issue, which is why everybody's talking about transportation, and that is, am I going to be able to move the grain that I've already contracted that was supposed to be picked up? How much am I going to move between now and new crop coming in? And those are key questions because it has impact on things like cash flow and even, you know, what you may choose to plant. If you're not moving something, the question you'd have to ask yourself is, do you want to grow more of it in 2014? So I think that's the immediate question.
So certainly the discussion this morning, very much, you know, there is, like you mentioned, a lot of pressure, a lot of impatience maybe about, you know, how plugged up our system is. But realistically, this big crop is a good thing. This is the kind of huge crop we want. But it's really, you know, put the pressure on our system and shown where all these cracks are. So, you know, how do we put together a plan now to address the immediate term, the medium term, the long term?
Well, I think it does start with identifying what kind of statistics we need to be tracking and measuring. And we do have a disconnect in a lot of the systems where grain companies will look at things from their perspective, railways look at it from their perspective, ports look at it from their perspective. I think if we start by looking at it from the customer's perspective, it doesn't matter to a customer in Asia or Europe or anywhere in the world where the problem is. They just want to know they can get product on time, reliably and consistently. So if we change the point from which we look at the system and then try to make sure the whole system works together, I think that's where we're going to have to start. And now we will dive down and start looking at individual performance along that logistics chain to make some improvement. You're right, I think people will pick up 1 or 2 or 3 key issues that they're aware of, and there might be things that they see at their local delivery point or if you're somewhere down the chain. But we've got to start integrating them and start looking. It's not just about making improvements in efficiencies in what we're doing. I think there may be some things that we're going to find that we need to do which really are innovative in terms of we haven't done it before, but we need to start doing it now.
And now, have you got the sense that, you know, already, and certainly I've heard this as well, that are we in the immediate term missing out on sales already?
And there's no doubt about it. Grain companies will say they're having to defer sales. They have to cancel sales because if you don't have the capacity, you can't sell what you can't move. And so in the short term, there's one key question, and that is how much grain are we guaranteed will move between now and the 1st of August? That will allow companies to know where they're at with their sales book currently and decide what additional room they have to sell additional product. Right,
because I think in speaking this morning, there's an estimate that we may carry over as much as 1/3 of this crop. So for farmers trying to plan, for grain companies trying to look forward, all those sorts of things, we need this assurance of what is going to move. Let's start dealing with what's not going to move and think about, because really I think as frustrated as everyone is right now, it's next crop that's really going to also suffer from this. So we need some solutions in the short, very short, the immediate term. And then we start looking at the medium and the longer term.
And we have that macro level of 1/3 crop carryover, but we now need to get down to the individual farmer level. And some farmers will have moved almost all of their crop. Maybe they made their decisions to market a lot of crop right off the combine. And guys that waited, which in the past might have been a really good strategy to defer marketing some of yours till later in the year, are now going to be left probably carrying a big chunk of that inventory to the next year. So I think there's both these macro system statistics we need to look at, but we also need to understand so that farmers at their individual level can be planning in terms of what kind of storage they're going to need for next year, what kind of cash flow they're going to need to be able to put a crop in the ground in 2014.
Right, and this is where, I mean, we've been talking about, okay, so then there's the advanced payment program, and there's like all these little pieces of the puzzle that, you know, we do have to in the short term sort of deal with this. Now, with the project that Pulse Canada is heading up with this performance review, how often do you foresee sort of maybe some feedback coming out of that? Is that, will it be in every 6 months, every 3 months? Because I know there was some criticism, oh, this is 5 years, but this is really about, it's not about at the end of 5 years we'll have a discussion. This is a discussion and information that's going to be generated and looked at and talked about all the time. Is that correct?
Well, and a lot of, yes, it is. And a lot of the work that we're working on is at a company-specific level. So we're not measuring sort of macro system performance things. The Green Monitoring Program is taking a look at that, and the Minister has talked about increasing the frequency and making sure that the reports get out on a more timely basis. But what we're focusing more on is getting down to the company-specific level. And so company-specific shipment data will be confidential.
Right.
I think we will look at aggregating some of that information up in something Grain Monitor program reporting on some of it. But ultimately, businesses perform on a business-by-business basis, and we have to make that system improvement, at the company level. That's where farmers are going to see some improvement if their local elevator or local processor is able to move grain. So you're not going to see a lot of public reports coming out of what we're doing. I think that the indicator is going to be, are we starting to make some improvement in efficiencies and predictability of movement.
Right. Okay, great. Well, thanks so much, Gordon.
Thank you.